Welcome everyone to the third graduation call for OLS 3, which is the third cohort of the Open Life Science, Open Science Training and Mentoring Program. So today we have a really big call. Most of our graduates are registered for this call, so it will be longer than the last two. But the general format will be everyone gets up to 5 minutes to present, talk about what they've learned, where they're taking their projects what they've learned over the last 16 weeks and where they hope they'll be going in the future. So for the calls, I will have my phone doing a timer, and if at any point I think we are at running over, I will unmute and it will start singing to you, at which point we will ask you to politely wrap up. I will also do some of the quick pre-kickoff things at the minute. So as a reminder, Open Life Science has a code of conduct as a general rule. That means treat one another with respect and the way that you would like to be treated when you're interacting with people in the Open Life Science community, whether that's on a call or Slack or anywhere else. If you need to report anything that you believe hasn't been in line with the code of conduct, you can report by emailing team@openlifesci.org, which reaches myself, Berenice, Malvika, and Emmy, or you can email any of us individually. All of this information is in the document at line 17 to 20. We also have otter.ai for the transcription so that you can follow along by reading what's being said. I'm just going to post that in YouTube in a minute as well, but that's available also in our chat. And I think that is everything from the intros. No one's saying, yo, you forgot anything, so hopefully I didn't. So without any further ado, we're going to start in the order of the project presentations on Etherpad. So first of all, on the list, we have Jennifer Miller talking about when postdocs go to court, an empirical legal research open notebook. Jennifer, are you ready? Looking good.
Greetings, fellow graduates, program facilitators, and our most welcome guests. I'm Jennifer Miller, an independent scholar working on open knowledge projects in North Carolina, United States. This project, When Postdocs Go to Court, used methods from open notebook science and empirical legal research to create an open data set to study how postdocs interact with the US legal system. First, what do we mean by postdoc? The National Postdoctoral Association says a postdoctoral scholar, or postdoc, is an individual holding a doctoral degree who's engaged in a temporary period of mentored research or training for the purpose of acquiring the professional skills needed for a career path of his or her choosing. In the US, there are more than 60,000 postdocs. Over 50% of these are immigrants on temporary visas. And about 30%, or 20,000 people, of these postdocs work in the life sciences. And these data come from the National Center for Science and Engineering Statistics. In the US, documents created by the federal government are generally in the public domain. This includes opinions published by federal courts. These opinions often contain detailed court transcripts. By analyzing these documents, we can learn about postdocs' working conditions. For example, we can ask, are postdocs employees or are they students? The first passage refers to employment 3 times: employment agreement, terms of employment, employment relationship. In contrast, the second passage, which comes from a different case, contrasts persons on the job with holders of fellowships. During the Mozilla OLS program, we created an open database, Postdoc Legal 1.0. It contains 120 public domain documents ready for analysis or use in teaching. We include several metadata elements to clearly identify the documents. During the program, we also refined our project management approach and documented our progress in a few GitHub Wiki blog posts. Next steps for the project are to find a home for the database and complete our remaining tasks, especially related to writing and analyzing data. Another one of my team members may also apply to a future cohort of Mozilla OLS to carry the work forward. I want to warmly express gratitude for the dedicated work of my fellow project team members, Adriana Bankston and Melania Abrahamian. I also want to thank all of those involved with the leadership of this cohort, especially our project mentor, Beth Duckles. This project builds on the 2013 conference paper listed here, and I'm grateful to have it out of the file drawer and into the open.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Can we have a huge round of applause for Jennifer? And you managed to keep it under time and everything, which is beautiful on a call like today. With that, everyone, please keep your comments, your questions coming in on the document. There is space to add those in the Etherpad. We'll make sure the Etherpad link is available for the YouTube viewers as well. But we won't have time to go into the questions, so I'll request that hosts always actually go through and try and answer them in the document while we're going. Next up, I have Carla. It looks like you are next on the list.
Yes, I am. Let me just find the presentation, which is definitely not this, but this one. Okay. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. So hi, everyone. I'm Carla Lancelotti, and together with Javier Ruiz Perez, who should be in the audience, and Marco Madella, who is in the same building as me, but probably not in the audience. I'm going to explain to you our project for the Open Life Science Perseverance cohort, which is titled Towards Fairer Phytoliths Data, or for friends, Fair Phytoliths Project. So first of all, what are phytoliths? Because you might not be familiar with this. Phytoliths are small silica, biogenic silica particles that are found inside plants and are vastly used in archaeology, paleoenvironment reconstructions, geochemistry, silicon cycle studies, etc., because they represent very well the plants where they formed. And there's an international phytolith societies who's working towards some data integration and some standardization, which is represented mainly by the attempt to create an international code for phytolith nomenclature. But as a study from our OLS mentor, Emma Karune, found out recently, only half of the publications on phytoliths in any realm or in any topics of science that use phytoliths share some form of data. And the majority of this data is not reusable. So what we set up to do in the OLS program was to start creating a community of open phytoliths and make phytoliths more fair. So as you all know by now, fair, find findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. The aims that we expected to achieve during this program were to create a community survey within the phytolith community to understand how phytolith researchers perceive open practices, and then start creating the FAIR phytolith community. So open a repository on GitHub, design a web page, and maybe a bit too much for the OLS program. We also wanted to create a protocol for phytolith data publication and sharing, which we didn't achieve at completely, but we started. So we're very happy about that. First, as I was saying, was to create a survey. And we did that. The survey is in two main parts. The first one is totally anonymous and open, and it's about FAIR practices. I'll show you a little bit more later. And the second one is non-anonymous, and it basically asks people if they want to contribute, and how they want to contribute to make phytoliths fair and open. And we launched the survey officially yesterday or the day before yesterday, and we already have 7 responses, so not that many, but we can share them with you at least as a preliminary idea of what's going on. So in the first part of the survey, we were asking questions such as, have you ever published gold open access? Have you ever published a preprint? Do you publish data in your paper? And if so, how? And I just want to show you here an example of what happens in the community. Out of the 6 responses, 100% of people said they've never published a preprint, and some of them said because they were afraid of plagiarism, others because they didn't know that this opportunity existed. But the good news is out of 7 responses, 100% said, yes, I want to help and I want to be involved in making phytoliths fairer. So we are very happy about how this is starting. The second task was to create a GitHub repository for collaborative work, and we did so with all the main sections that are expected into a collaborative repository, the README, the license, the roadmap, etc. We also put up some additional sections like our application for funding and dissemination materials and instructions for people who want to become part of this initiative. And then we started obviously disseminating the initiative because we need people to come on board. So we created a website through GitHub, and we opened a Twitter account. That's basically our main way of recruiting people for the survey right now. And we're very happy because in a few days, the Twitter account gained quite a few followers. And it's actually already up to almost 90 right now. So it's very good. And finally, future step. First of all, a very good news. We got some funding from EOSC Life to carry on with this project and initiative. So we are going to make the community even more open and welcoming by translating the web page. And then in terms of research, we're going to circulate the survey and analyze the data. We are going to assess published datasets of phytoliths datasets from Europe and South America. In order to understand how data are shared and what we can improve. And then we're going to design a protocol for data sharing. Basically, what we're going to do is try to make our community grow and thrive. And eventually, as a very, very future step, we would like to try and create some infrastructure like a repository for sharing fair phytoliths data. And that's it. We want to thank warmly a lot of people, all the organizer of the OLS3 mentoring program, all our fellow participants, and especially Emma, our great mentor and a fellow researcher, and Esther, who gave good tips on the survey, and well, anyone else really. Thanks.
Fantastic. Can we have a huge round of applause, everyone? Awesome. Okay. We are moving on. And folks, just for clarification, we are using the project order, which is under the project presentation section of the notes. So next up, we have Irene.
Can you see my presentation now?
We can. Do you want to try present mode?
Yes.
Looks good.
Okay.
5 minutes starts now.
Thank you. So, hi everyone, my name is Irene Ramos and my project is Skills for Open Agrobiodiversity Data. I work at Conavio, which is a governmental agency that funds and coordinates biodiversity data collection in Mexico. Right now, we're building an information system for agricultural biodiversity. So our focus is on cultivated plants in traditional agriculture. There are several teams of early career and student researchers who are doing field data collection across the country. There are two important features of agrobiodiversity. The first is that besides a biological and geographical component, it also has a social and cultural component. So for example, we are collecting data on local donors and also on uses and common names of plants. The second feature is that a lot of this information is collected with indigenous communities. One of the problems we face is that data are not reused by the people who are collecting the data. And a few reasons for this are that our contributors are not trained in open practices, and there are few resources for learning about open data in Spanish, especially resources that consider the special features of agrobiodiversity data. The solution that I proposed is to design a workshop on data literacy skills that encourages participants to become users of data apart from being collectors, and that increases their awareness of open data as a collaborative effort. In the medium term, I also hope that this workshop shows how we can provide incentives for open practices as a funding institution. My main focus during the program has been planning the workshop, and I've tried to apply the principles of open by design and active learning. This means that there is a combination of lectures and activities where participants can reflect and can link the new concepts with their previous knowledge and also share their experiences. So I show here an example of one of the sessions. Some topics for the workshop include open data, FAIR principles, the data lifecycle, and ethical data use. I'm still preparing materials, and I expect to give these workshops sometime in June or July. So during planning, I also had to start conversations with my supervisors to show the need for this training. They have been very supportive, and we together realized that our own team at Conavio could also benefit from this training. So I am already planning to give an internal workshop with our colleagues. I've also learned that to advocate effectively for open science, it's very helpful to work at different levels. Advocacy through training, as I am trying to do with the workshops, is an example of combining bottom-up and top-down approaches. So that means that I am working with our contributors, but I am also having conversations with people at higher levels in the administrations who are responsible for funding and for making choices. The OLS program has inspired me to think about data management as community management. As I mentioned, one of the goals of the workshops is to strengthen the participation in our information system. This is very important for us because we want to make sure that our information system is sustainable in the long term. So we need to take a community approach instead of focusing only on the technical side of data management. And I've learned a lot about how to apply open by design principles to our work. So finally, I want to thank my mentor, Viv Gopalasingam, the expert we consulted with, Marco Crestancio, Metadocencia, because they provide training for giving online teaching workshops, and the OLS organizers and my team at Conavio.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Everyone, can we have your sparkle hands and reaction emojis? Amazing. Okay. Right. Thank you. We are just going to move straight on. Keep those questions and comments coming in on the Etherpad, my friends. Fabienne, we have you next.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah, so I am Fabienne. I am a physician scientist at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, and I am a pathologist and the founder and the project lead of the MySet, which stands for Minimum Set of Research Flow Cytometry Standards, where publishing reproducible data starts. So this is trying to tackle the problem that up to 90% of published scientific articles are not reproducible. And this is partly because metrics to determine data quality are either outdated, rarely used, or not enforced. And also because peer review incentives to change poor practices do not exist, or again, are not enforced. And we are using flow cytometry, which is a experimental technique or an instrumentation that is frequently used in the lab, both in the research lab, but also in the clinical space as a proof of principle for our approach. You can imagine that the cost of irreproducibility is huge. There is, of course, a direct cost relating to equipment, space. You have to pay people, you have to pay for reagents, you have to pay for materials. And if something isn't reproducible, that can add up to a lot of dollar signs. But then there's also the indirect cost. You're losing time, you look at the literature, you try to inform this for your own work. So science building on non-valid science. And then now I think with COVID, what we also as scientists have to be very much aware of is the credibility and trust that we have, or well, rather don't have, and not being reproducible certainly doesn't help the matter. And then from my perspective as a physician, this is also where patient safety comes in, because a lot of your biomedical basic science is the foundation for translational science that ultimately gets translated into something for patient care. So our solution to this is to facilitate the peer review process by creating a tool, the MySet tool, that automatically reads your experimental information from all stages of your experiment, translates your experimental information into a quality score, and this quality score then communicates how well the best practices are followed. And this ultimately benefits journals, editors, reviewers, scientists, and the readers. So we are building our tool on a very data and community-driven approach, starting with review of existing best practices, surveying the community, building a prototype tool, and then moving on to beta testing. And you can see that the blue parts of the circle have been in progress since 2019 with building our group, building a website, having an initial publication about what we're doing, launching the survey, presenting the survey at a conference abstract, doing data analysis for the survey, and also incubating this project in the Harvard Innovation Lab incubator. However, coming into OLS has been really critical for us, because at this point we had a huge unmet need for skills and resources. And what I mean by that is, well, we had to learn that it's good to have friends in Flow, but it's actually much better to have friends in Open Science. We had been trying for a very long time to get the approval stamp of our official Flow Cytometry Society, which has not been given for various reasons. And we actually realized that in order to get the skill set, the support, and the allies that we need to move forward, we need to look into the open science space. So where we are now is, unfortunately, I personally have to hibernate the project because I am going into a hematopathology fellowship next week. So we are actually trying to partner up with you guys. And one of the people that is going to be our main partner, I'm not sure if he's on the call, is Jackson, who is a software engineer here at Boston University. And what we really want to do is pass on the pipeline that we have built in order to create that tool to others who are interested in best practices. And then Jackson building a tool that actually does the reading. And our vision is that together we could apply the I in FAIR and make what we have created so far interoperable and available to other groups that are trying to standardize this. And with this, I just want to say thank you, huge thank you to all the organizers, but also predominantly to Malvika, who's been our very, very patient and supportive mentor, and Sunika, and also for Samuel for having chats with me and just telling me about coding and what is really happening. And then of course to Jackson. And that is the end for me. Thank you.
Glorious. And once again, we want a beautiful show of hands, my friends. Emoji reactions is the other choice. Don't have to have your camera on. Okay, folks, for the next one, we will not be recording. So my recommendation, if you are watching on YouTube, stretch your legs, go get a coffee, buy a break, a cookie, come back in 5 minutes, then we will be streaming again. So I'm going to turn that streaming off. And
Right, we can see your slide. Maybe you want to
Yes,
go in
hello.
presentation mode?
Yes, give me 1 minute. Is it okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. You can also see my screen?
Yes, but maybe you want to go in presentation mode? Oh, yeah, you're in there now. You're good.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I'm Charidimos Kondelakis. I'm a postdoctoral research is about prostate cancer. So in Europe, actually, prostate cancer is the second most frequent type of cancer and the third most lethal. On the other hand, current clinical practices lack precision. So what we aim for is advanced AI models to go beyond state of the art. However, to work models appropriately, we need data. Unfortunately, those data are fragmented in clinical silos, let's say. So the project actually envisions to accumulate the largest collection of PCA, multiparametric MRIs, anonymized images, and data worldwide, based on data donorship, actually. So the goal and the expectation in OLS3 was actually to build an open metadata repository for storing the metadata of the various datasets. And my expectation was to learn best practices on open data publishing, open science, and metadata. And we successfully implemented a state-of-the-art open source one Molgenis as the most appropriate. We also selected open models, ontologies that we intend to use. We installed Molgenis, we published test data, and we implemented APIs in order to allow other tools in the project to push metadata. And now Molgenis is up and running to be used as the main metadata repository of the project. And through this journey, actually, what we learned is that instead of building custom solutions, rely on the community, explore find something applicable. This is what we did, and we found Molgenis. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Also, discussions with the mentor helped, whereas some other talks like open data, open fair principles, and open science were very enlightening. And many thanks for this. The next steps is to wait for actual data to come from clinical centers of the project, because currently we only have experimented with test data. And please, if you have such data sets available, please share them with us. You will hear from us in the future as we accumulate data and run your models and train them. So many thanks to Harpreet Singh, the mentor, for the kind and discreet guidance. And thank you all for being here. Many thanks.
Thank you so much. Round of virtual applause and sparkly hands. Thank you. Folks, as usual, please leave your questions in the pad, but meanwhile, we will move on to Mishka.
Hi, everyone. Hope this is in full screen mode.
Yes, perfect.
Cool. So I am Mishka Nemes, and I work at the Alan Turing Institute as a training officer. And my project for OLS is called Learning at the Turing Towards an Open Training Infrastructure. So the motivation behind this project started a while back. Thanks to Aida, I guess everybody here has a better idea of what the Turing is, but I just want to highlight that the Alan Turing Institute, where I work, is the National Institute for Data Science and AI in the UK, and that it has three main goals. So advance world-class research, train the leaders of the future, as well as lead a public conversation. And the second remit, the training one, is what falls under my, what I work on the most. And so for about 5-6 years since the Institute was established, we've been very much working at providing training opportunities internally to our students, our researchers. However, when the pandemic happened, we had to move on all the training that we would deliver in person to online training. And these three things have kind of urged us to think of about a way to develop open, accessible, and free training for everyone. So in doing so, we're identifying three main enablers. The first one, enable the community to contribute to training. We can't provide everything in-house. The second one, to enable the train-the-trainer approach, whereby today's learners in a workshop would become tomorrow's instructors in that workshop. And the third one would be to enable open access to training resources. So we went from being very much like inward looking to much more engaging the community and different communities and the different tools such as the Carpentries, OLS, Moodle, and GitHub. So the main project goal that I set up for the OLS project was to build a GitHub platform that would allow contributors to engage with, shape out, or make use of the learning that the Turing offer. And these contributions can take lots of shapes. My expectations from the OLS program were to learn the best practices in the open science realm, to identify relevant and trialed resources and materials, to understand what approaches are appropriate for my work, and also to develop a lasting connection with the open community. So the actions and accomplishments I took towards my goals were, before I even considered applying to OLS, I designed, launched, and managed a funding call aimed at online open access training. And one of the main things that we wanted to do through that call was to make sure that absolutely all the training proposals that we award as successful would be open source and accessible following the development. Then starting this year, through the OLS program, but also through interactions with colleagues, training collaborators, OLS mentors, and experts, I developed I learned more about the open science practices and tools, and I also better defined the project goals. Finally, I managed to build a community platform prototype, and I definitely become a much more skillful GitHub user in the last 3 months. Also, probably this is the first project ever where I had the most realistic goals, because they were very much process oriented as opposed to goal oriented. I realized it's a lot to learn, so I feel like I achieved that. And yeah, in terms of my journey to open leadership, I first started volunteering for an organization called One Health Tech, which is an open community of health tech professionals and enthusiasts. As soon as I started working at the Turing, I became very inspired by the Turing way in terms of the practices, the community, and everything. I became a carpentries certified instructor last year. And in the OLS2 presentations, I learned about the Turing data stories, which inspired me to apply to OLS. And then through different discussions that I had with colleagues and mentors and the cohort calls, I managed to develop this platform. And in terms of what's next, I think the most important thing right now is to develop this community and manage the community of contributors and develop better guidelines. But it's quite a lot of work, so I'm excited that I have a prototype and that I already have some instructors and contributors. I can start trialing this platform. And yes, I would like to thank Jez, Alexandra, and Malvika for their support during the program and also previous to the program, but also to the OLS community for learning a lot and the GitHub support community. So yeah, thank you. Here are my details.
Thank you so much, Mishka. All the virtual applause and for the wonderful work. Oops, there goes my timer. Fantastic. Next, we will have Sarah.
Hello, everyone. You're all going to be sick to death of hearing about the Turing after this, because I was working on developing an open source service area for the Turing. So I'm going to give yet another explanation of a slightly different perspective on what the Turing is. The Turing is a hub that connects a whole range of universities across the UK, but also a whole range of business and industry partners as well. And we collaborate together to try and solve real world problems with the most cutting edge data science and AI research techniques out there. So we're already kind of like innovating around how research happens, how it collaborates and such. And I saw an opportunity for us to really innovate in how we output our research and help accelerate the broader data science community as well by taking our research outputs and transforming them into upstream open source contributions. So my project was around this service area, a framework with which to kind of disseminate knowledge of the open source community and how you contribute. And like my goals were to embed open practices into Turing research projects. And I wanted to empower Turing researchers to work openly. And I wanted to guide them in transforming their research outputs into those upstream contributions. And I wanted to do this through a framework which allowed them to collaborate with expert open source contributors. I did not do that through a case of lots and lots of mitigating circumstances. But like some of the big key points is that the culture change is really hard. It takes a really long time, much longer than a 16-week program. And it's a lot harder when you're kind of doing it by yourself as well. And I think a lot of this is the original proposal I wrote for this idea was pretty much a software consultancy job. And I think I probably intimidated myself into a bit of inaction. But also I'm having a role change, and tomorrow is actually my last day at the Turing as well. So, and I didn't want to engage with other projects and promise them parts of me that I would then take away from them. So what we did was we had a pivot. We had a pivot to user research based on the philosophy that we can't get to where we want to be until we can understand where we are and properly design the pathways between the 2 points, just so that I'm not putting out frameworks that I say, hey, this works, and everybody at the Turing turns around and says, no, it doesn't. So I wanted to assess the current attitudes and the drivers and barriers towards open working in the Turing before kind of like putting this framework into place or designing it. So this is where OLS came into play. This is the roadmap I have for performing the user interviews. And this was like a really interesting aspect for me because I'm very much a quant scientist, and this is very much qualitative work, but a lot of the same themes, a lot of the same steps you have to go through when doing a research project are still just as applicable. We still had discussions about ethics, proper GDPR handling of the data, getting people's consent, having a data management plan, how we're going to securely store that data, and how this might be replicated by other communities as well. And this is where my connection with my mentor, Meg Doherty, was like super important. I think the thing that made it work so well is that we have a shared vision. We're both trying to work towards these open working practices, but in very different contexts. And she imparted like her skill and wisdom from all of her lived experience and training of doing this in her job for however long to me, who is a new person and like had never done user research before. And a big thanks to Yo as well, who came in as our expert, who is currently doing qualitative research and kind of like gave me the 101 of how you deal with these kind of these user research stories. So what's going to happen next? First and foremost, we're going to take a break. We're going to relax. We're going to decompress a bit. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to reflect and generalize on this. So this work, I think, will be picked up in the Turing. Like, I've definitely handed over this service area to someone else, and all of my strategic thinking around this is available in that GitHub repository to them. But what I also think would be a nice thing to do as well is to generalize what I've written for the Turing into something that other organizations can take and implement to reflect on their own open working practices. And the folks at the Turing can be like the blueprint for how well this works or doesn't work, perhaps. So I'll put some work into creating an open practices toolkit and probably launch that with a blog at some point in the future. So I'd just like to say thank you to the OLS team, to my mentor Meg, and the whole Perseverance cohort. It's been brilliant. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Applauses, reactions. Awesome. Thank you. Next, we have the team of Prakriti, Ujwal, and Mohan.
Hello everyone, I'm Prakriti Karki, an undergraduate student from Nepal, and this is the team of our 3 members, myself, Mohan Gupta, and Ujwal Shrestha. I'm sorry for a little late presentation due to my health issues, and so let's move in our journey to connect rural students to quality education. So Gyan Namuna is derived from 2 Sanskrit words, Gyan and Namuna, which combinedly means the model of knowledge. Through this project, we are trying to provide a quality practical education to rural students of Nepal. For now, we have chosen only one school, a Vairapnath school, because we believe in one step at a time. So for the motivation for this is because of the certain problems that's prevalent in the current rural education in Nepal, like the least students in a school, lack of qualified teachers, untrained teachers, lack of resources of teaching, poor school management, etc. So we would like to make a little change in these parameters. So we are based in these mottos like the frugal innovation approach, digital education, compensate the lackings that we have, and the inclusiveness. We make open source DIY hardware like microscopes. We teach the students to make microscopes, and we use DIY DNA extraction protocol, and also teach them to extract DNA. So before joining OLS, I was just driven by the term open science. With the recorded videos, presentations, I learned and realized its importance in developing countries like ours too. So this GitHub is the interested and most important thing I learned during the OLS journey. I found its great importance in several open science projects and found a way to contribute in other people's projects too. So what I learned during the journey is how to integrate open science with non-science projects, and how to identify people sharing common interests and goals and collaborate with them. How can data be shared and improved without any fear? Self-care and love, inclusiveness and open leadership, and many more. So we also got attention in several news media and social medias with our storytelling of our project, which also motivated us to engage in the open science and the project we are doing. Experiences and learnings from OLS journey also motivated me to integrate open science principles in my undergraduate thesis project, through which we are trying to engage poultry farmers, data scientists, microbiologists in wild-type probiotics discovery research. You can also find this project on Zoggle and open science platforms. So this is the simple design of our website. Our works are halted for the moment due to the worst COVID situation in Nepal, and we are full and ready to continue the project as soon as the schools resume, as rural students do not have access to internet at home, so we have to depend on a reopening of their schools. So I would like to thank OLS organizing team, my mentor Teresa Laguna, whole OLS community, all of my friends and families for helping me throughout this journey. And yeah, this is a picture captured when our donation of computers, webcam, internet reached to the school. And thank you again, everyone. Together we can, world just needs a little impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Big round of applause for the team and the wonderful work that they've done. Very inspiring. Next, Afzal, if you are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Hi everyone. I am Afzal Ansari along with my next mentee Abdul I'm gonna present here. Our project title is Documentation Enhancement with Open Science Practices and SKTime, under the guidance of our mentor, Dr. Toby Hodges, and special advisory, Dr. Renato Alves. For those who don't know about SKTime, SKTime is an open source project. This is a kind of new Python toolbox for machine learning with time series. So our project's goal was to improve SKTime's online documentation with a specific focus on documenting algorithm contributors. How my all this journey started and why I was interested in. I attended one of the Python sprints last year. I actually took part in mentorship program in one of the open source project, that is SKTime, and under the guidance of Marcus, who is a co-leader of SKTime. So through him, I was able to find this way to get into all this program. And also I was very, I also wanted to learn more about open project, that is open science practices, how to collaborate with others and all. And so, yeah, I can useful insight into my project development through this journey. So what was the reason? Our aim was to make it easier for users and other developers to kindly get in touch with the algorithm experts, and secondly, to recognize their contributions more visibly. When we started our work, we had some issues like our estimate overview, difficult to find out who the contributor is and how to get in touch with them directly for any users or any other developers. And so doing all things manually requires lots of works. Whenever an algorithm is added or something changes. So if we have some solutions like creating a table with algorithm name, so estimate types and with their orders. Using automation algorithm, we are able to produce Spring-centered documentation. Here it is what we have accomplished. This screenshot, you can see the Spring-centered documentation, this here class names, and the second screenshot, you can see the orders associated with their class name. Let me share in another tab, just to here it is. You can see that when this algorithm this night forecast to class name, and here it is declared it's all variable, and you see the other name who has already contributed to this this class, this algorithm. So here it is. So let me share the other tab. So here we have already designed this page customer overview. Let me give you the chance channel. Let me going to search for and class name. Let's start with all your levels and the coordinates. Right? Yeah, this column, you can see this starting with class name. So let me search for any streamer types. So let's say forecasting. You can see all the first of all, you can see the class names for related to their streamer types. Let's say for all this, if you want to see their contributions here, let's Marcus, you can see all the their codes, their class names. You can see their contribution. Like let's say you want to know for their contribution, like you can click here. You can go to their IP references. So likewise, this is some kind of work for us. Yeah, we have next steps like you can see the inviting collaborators to contribute on this main evolve SKTime and adding other imports like request reference and links, class names to their IP references. So yeah, using GitHub Actions, we can make more things or make automate like triggering itself while updating for owners file. I'm really honored to have our OS community, and also what Dr. Toby is. He has been great and quite supportive, and he offered great help, like sharing useful resources regarding our project. And yeah, so and last but not least, all his team, they are incredible and quite supportive. And thanks again for this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we would put the link on the Etherpad as well, so that folks can go check out your wonderful work as well. Next, I shall hand over to Malvika.
Thank you, Emmy. Thanks everybody who've done fantastic job. If you read our back channel messaging, we're almost crying inside. We're so proud of everything you've done. I'm going to move on to our other set of speakers. The next speaker group is from the project Hausa NLP. Samsudeen, we don't hear you, but we see the screen.
Oh yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So thank you very much for having us here. We have from Hausa NLP project with my colleague Ibrahim and our mentor Laura Carter. So what is Hausa NLP? So Hausa is a language in Africa, in particular in Nigeria. It's one of the second most popular language spoken in Africa. And natural language processing, which is NLP, is processing of natural language using computer. So when you combine Hausa NLP is how can we analyze or process text written in Hausa language. So the motivation of this project is that not only Hausa, but African languages are heavily underrepresented in natural language processing research in the world. Other languages like English, French, as you can see, you can have something like Siri, which processes text. You can have voice recognition. These are all field of AI. But in African languages, we don't have right now. So the motivation of this project is how can we generate data that can be used to actually use in artificial intelligence. So that's the background or motivation of this project. The goals we acquired in this project, we got skills necessary to run and set up this open source project. We also expand our network and collaboration with like-minded in Africa, not only in Africa as well, but in Europe, we have many collaborators. And right now, we set up a community. So this is somehow some of the community members from the project, and the goals achieved and the success are many in this project. So number one, basically we acquired the tremendous amount of experience. We properly structured our project by all means that a project, open source project should have, because of the experience we have through these OLS. And also one of the most important thing is we secure a funding from Lacuna Fund to create language resource. As I've said, one of the problems that we don't have, African languages are not represented in AI is that they don't have enough data to train any AI, because without data, there is no AI. So that's why our languages doesn't actually capture in AI field, despite the fact that there is significant advancement. So right now we got a funding that we started working to create language resources for not only Hausa, but 3 most dominant languages in Nigeria called Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo. We also got some expert guide, because as we scale this funding, this is our first funding. We don't know how to actually manage it. So we asked our mentor, and we had 2 sessions from experts on how we can spend and do our project. And also we got Google support for cloud credit. So after we gather our data, we create data, we will do some kind of machine learning and deep learning stuff to understand some text automatically. And Google support us because they are in one way the funders for Lacuna project. So they also offer us Google Cloud Credit that we can use to train deep learning. Also, other partner from Lacuna Fund is Data Ethics, and also they support us. And we had many sessions on how we can develop bias-free, ethical-free data that doesn't actually have any ethical concerns. The journey has been quite informative, and our aim is to keep the House NLP as a next step, keep evolving and keep growing. And this is not actually the last stop of our project. All right, and finally, we would like to thank our mentor and also the whole OLSC organizer. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. If you would stop sharing, we'll show you how great your talk was, and we're super proud of you. Let's show him some jazz hands and sparkles and claps. Amazing work, Shamsuddin and your team. If you all have any question, please add that in the notes, and I will move on to our next set of speakers. It's Mehak and Arvind Preet from India. Arvind, are you able to share it? I think Mehak's screen is frozen.
Oh, okay. Is it fine?
Okay.
Mehak, are you there? No, screen is not visible. Visible?
Mehak, I think your internet is a bit poor. Arvind, yours looks a bit stable. If you would want to share your screen, I think that would work.
Sure. Mehak, is my screen visible to you?
Good.
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah.
Go for it. Your 5 minutes starts.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Mehak, take off your video. Maybe it's stable then.
Right. Is it fine?
Yeah, perfect. Go for it.
Yeah. The rise of obesity has placed the health of entire generation at risk. These are the words from US Secretary of Agriculture. And what if I tell you that if you are obese, then you are at the risk of diabetes? So I am here with my teammate Arvind Preet Kaur to present our work which we have done in the past 14 weeks. It's systems genomic integration of diabetes related genes, a quest for developing of biomarkers. Next. So what were the initial goals? We actually wanted to find the common genes among the diabetes, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and the obesity from the openly available data using the systems biology integration tools. Now to find the correlation between the, later on the step was to find the correlation among the human gut microbiome and the common genes in selected phenotypes. Because we wanted to identify the candidates for rational drug designing, and later on the goal was to develop galaxy.org workflows so that we can share it openly and others may use it. Next. So what was the methodology we used? We were trying to find openly available data sets as much we could, and we were able to find 18 geo data sets of diabetes and 13 geo data sets of obesity. Later on, we tried to find the differentially expressed genes of, and also we have tried to combine an already published study, and from there we have tried to take the genes of the diabetes and obesity, which are like which have the positive association with for causing the disease. For once, I want to tell you that diabetes is a disease and obesity is a phenotype. And later on, post-pathogen interactions were found using the standard resources, and after that, docking was done. Next. After that, now the first result was to find the candidate genes. So here in the picture, you can see that number of genes you can see they're visible, of diabetes and obesity. And later on, after combining all the data, we have tried to find the genes which are corresponding to both obesity and diabetes. Now I would like to call my teammate Arvind Preet to proceed further.
Okay, thank you, Manik. So after finding the 16 candidate genes, which were common among type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and obesity, we made the interaction map using Phenolizer, and these are the results. After that, we had seen the interaction among the 16 genes in gut microbiome. For that, we used HPIDB and Intech databases, all in order to check the interaction, and also in order to check the microbiota and its related disorder. We used gut-M disorder, and we had found ubiquitin enzyme E2E3, which has shown interaction with OSPG, which is found in Shigella flexneri. It is the gut bacteria which is responsible for diarrhea in humans. After that, we did docking studies between ubiquitin conjugating enzyme E2E3 with OSPG. The structure of UBE2E3 is not available. For that, we made the model using Swiss model, and then we mined the active site using the literature for both the proteins, and then we did docking using HEDOC. This is the interaction between both the proteins. This blue one is UBE2E3 and green is OSPG, and the HEDOC score for this is -121.0. And our future goal is to standardize this workflow using Galaxy and acknowledge all my team members, Yo, Baroness, Malvika, Amy, and special thanks to all my mentors, Anshu Bardwaj, Prashant Survajala, and Harpreet Singh, and thank you for your attention. Thank you so much.
Perfectly on time. If you can stop sharing. Let me try if I can do it for you. Great. Let's show some love. Great job. Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to our next speakers. DNA Analyzer team, Masako and Teresa.
Hello, today we want to talk about the Danalyzer, a metagenomics game for citizens. But first I want to introduce us. Masako and me, we will give this presentation today, but we are part of the street science community. And the street science community want to communicate science by showing its beauty. And we did this already with our Beer Decoded project, where citizens can extract the DNA of beer samples, sequence it, and analyze the DNA sequences to find out what kind of yeasts are inside this beer sample. We gave 2 days workshops for this and created all kinds of materials like this depiction, which is done by Berenice. Our workshops were always great experience, hands-on, all together in one lab, but of course this is not possible anymore. Apart from Corona and the whole situation, we wanted to develop a project which is more available and accessible for a broader audience. And we also wanted to have a project where scientists and citizens can mutually help each other. And therefore we came up with the idea of a game. And Masako will tell you now more about it and what we tackled in the mentoring program.
So for the roadmap, we first established a project, then thought about a storyline that would fit the metagenomic data. Then we want to implement the game, and we want to decide on criteria to score or evaluate the results of the metagenome analysis. And so first, I would like to show you how we defined the structure of the game. So we divided it into 3 steps. In the first step, the player can get familiar with the biological background needed. In the hands-on step, the player is guided through the analysis of the beer-decoded data. And in the expert level, the player can analyze their own novel data. So, but what storyline fits metagenomic data? We had a few ideas, and here is one of them. So it's the story of Jeff, and his family has owned a brewery for many generations. And one day he discovers a long forgotten barrel in his beer cellar. And he knew that it had to be his late grandfather's barrel, the best beer Jeff had ever had. So he decides that he wanted to recreate this beer, but what yeast strains does it contain? Can you help Jeff identify the different yeast strains to recreate his grandfather's beer? So this would be one possible story. And now back to Teresa.
So apart from this several stories we developed, we also have our Git repository and some other tasks, but there's still a lot of undone tasks. So I will come now to our to-dos, what we will further on do after the mentoring program. So we want to extend our stories and get more feedback from teachers and hopefully also pupils. We would like to engage more with the Galaxy community to get hints on how to better implement the game, and also gaming experts to gamify it and make it more fun for the users. And one of our main parts we want to focus on next is the connection between science and the society. And we thought we can tackle this very nicely through the scoring. I guess you all wonder if you have data. So our final goal is that scientists can apply their data within our game and get it analyzed by the gamers. And the issue here is if you have data and you don't know the outcome, how to score an analysis. So our idea is to elevate the gamers to experts so they can evaluate the analysis of another gamer. And by collecting all of this analysis, and we will generate a score which goes back to the researcher and gives it feedback on the data analysis. So whether the data analysis and the evaluations were in agreement or not, should you repeat the data analysis, should you repeat an experiment? And we hope with this, we really have a flow of help and information between science and the society. So our gamers of the game. And with this, we are at the end of our presentation, but we would like to thank, of course, the whole OLS3 team for providing this great mentor program. A huge thank you to Yvon, our mentor, who helped us structuring and tackling our project. Berenice, who was there from the first idea to now, always helping. Adam, who gave us great feedback on our stories. Clemens, who gave us feedback on a teacher perspective. We achieved funding from the University of Freiburg to hire part-time students. So this will really help us. Thanks a lot. And of course, all of you, thank you. It was a great experience and we are really happy to be part of this cohort. Thanks a lot.
Amazing. This is such a creative project as well. Let's give them a round of applause. All right. We are going to move on to the next speakers, and that's Reina and Alexander from Lakonga Physics.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Let me just then start. Okay, so I will be talking about Lakonga Physics, that stands for Latin American Alliance for Capacity Building in Advanced Physics. And this is a project that has a long history. We have been working together for a long time. And the story is the following. So experimental particle physics and advanced physics in the region in Latin America has been developing a lot in the last 20 years, but the development has been heterogeneous. Like from one country to another is very different, the amount of resources that are available for person power, but also instrumentation-wise. So there are many groups that are small, but have a lot of potential students that are very interested and people that are very interested in working on these topics. So when we become together, we are stronger, right? Together we can create larger projects and have more impact. So this is how the Lakonga Physics was created, which is an European Latin American virtual research and teaching network, which aims to support the modernization of the institutions that are participating in the project. So we want to modernize the university infrastructure, but also the pedagogical offer, the courses that are offered in advanced physics in 4 Latin American countries. So this is an Erasmus Plus project and it's co-financed by the European Union. We have 11 universities, 3 in Europe and 8 in Latin America, and we have 13 institutions, like scientific institutions, but also industrial partners. Now, from a practical point of view, Lakonga Physics has created a set of master courses in advanced physics that in total amount to 1-year program. And one important thing is that this program is common and is interinstitutional. So the 8 institutions in Latin America, the students from the 8 institutions, they are receiving the same program. And they are supported by the installation of interconnected instrumentation laboratories and an open learning platform. So the important point is that the students are located in different parts geographically, but students from Venezuela can access the data sets and the instruments that are installed in Ecuador, or the students that are in Peru, they can access the data set and analyze the data set that are collected in Colombia, for example. So the main thematic axis of this 1-year program is the following: theory, instrumentation, and data science. And this is very innovative in the region because most of the time the programs in master level, they only focus on theory. So we are also focusing in data science and instrumentation because we want to promote the open science values. We want to create a dynamic and international community training open science. And we also want that all the resources, all the classes, all the presentations that we are creating, they are available for use, reuse, and distribution. So leaving alone like the advanced physics part, we really want to create a community or a philosophy of working that can work for other areas of science. So this idea of working internationally, working in collaborative environment. Now, this project actually started officially in 2020. The first year was preparation, syllabus development, e-learning platform. And the first cohort of students, we have 70 students starting in February 2021. So our community is large. We are like 20 people working on Lakonga, but it's also an ambitious project. So that means that there are many things to do. When we started OLS, we already had some discussion around metadata and code of conduct and community building, but nothing was like concrete. Still, we had a head start. Now, Alex will tell us what we did with OLS.
Hi, everyone. Now that you know our project, we want to mention what we have earned thanks to OLS. First, OLS gave access to our work, especially in the area of open science. In these weeks, we also find motivation and pace to move forward. We met an amazing community of like-minded people to discuss and enrich each other. More in practice, we established a metadata framework for our content according to FAIR guidelines. We build a clear path for the people who join our community, trying to facilitate the work and the incorporation to the project. And finally, with OLS, we finally have a version for a data management plan and a code of conduct for our community. We also have amazing community calls to discuss FAIR principles, licenses, and community building in areas like Latin America. Thanks to the OLS program and its network, we also applied for a funding for a hackathon that we are carrying out in the next few months. We want to take the opportunity to thank our mentor, Laura, and from her, we want to highlight two things. First, that open doesn't mean always public, and one for life, perfect is the enemy of the good. Next, please. Now, I'm thinking in the next steps for La Conga project. We are excited to welcome new teachers and new students in the near few days. We also must implement our metadata framework more in the technical part. And thinking in the long term, we want the project to go beyond the 3 initial years. We want to be more sustainable. And last but not least, next please. We want to thank the following projects for inspiring us and for helping us. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Amazing work. Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to this wonderful. And I was saying that in addition to really great presentation, Alex looks like he's talking from the future. We're going to move to the next speaker from Biofirm Project, Olail. Do we have? Yeah. Go for it. That looks perfect.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olaile Ajeku, and I'm a student in chemical engineering in South Africa. And my project was called Biofirm. It's a web application for kinetic modeling and estimation of kinetic parameters in bioreactors. And I was mentored by Renato Alves. So my motivation behind this project was to build an easy user interface, which is openly available and designed specifically for bioreactor modeling processes. So the alternative would be the use of MATLAB, which is expensive, or Python or Excel, which have a steep learning curve. However, Biofirm, which was built using openly available packages, using various libraries such as Plotly for plotting, SciPy, which is used for solving mathematical problems, Pandas, which was used for data analysis and manipulation, and Streamlit, which was used to build the web application. So the project can be used to make kinetic models, simulations, as well as parameter estimations. And the data the user inputs would be their experimental data, which is at the top there, state variables, and various kinetic parameters. So when you log onto the application, it looks something like this, whereby you have, you can see a full page with a sidebar. So the sidebar allows you to pick the type of project and reactor configuration you'd like to use. And then you can also find a help page with help on it. The main page has where you can pick your reactants you'd be working with and your products. Next, there'll be a place where you can drag and drop or upload your data. And based on your data, you can pick columns which you would be able to do calculations on. And this is much easier than the alternative, which would be Excel, which takes a longer time to do this. So next, it would give you a generic curve fit as well as the curve equation. And you can also pick your kinetic model based on inbuilt model equations, which can be selected by the user and which can also be added to at a future date and built upon through collaboration and contribution. So you can also do simulations. So this gives you a graph of your kinetic model once you're done with it. And you can also do simulations based on various parameters which the user can input. So the outcome of the OLS program was firstly getting to know more about open community and open thinking, as well as thinking about openness and contribution of the project. The contribution in the form of addition of models from other configuration that other people may have worked with, and also to specify the target audience, which was students, researchers, and teachers, and organizing the project management skills were also important. And we learned a lot about GitHub, as well as I got a working prototype of the app. So the problems I've encountered were hosting online or finding an easy way to download and use the application. Right now, you need to have those various Python programs installed onto your computer. So the next step forward would be to get feedback from early users of the prototype, instructional videos on how to use the web application, as well as addition of more models and addition of other minimizers for parameter estimation, and also expand the GitHub README. So I would like to thank my mentor, Renato Alves, for his guidance, and as well as the organizers of OLS. Yeah, if you would like to get in contact, my email and links are there. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's give her a round of applause. So the next speaker is Nihan, and then I'll hand it over to you for the last talk.
So can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So hi, I am Nihan Sultan. I'm a master's student at the university in Turkey. I also worked in a molecular biology lab at a research institute. So my project is called MBio, open collaborative website in the field of molecular biology. Just at the beginning of my academic way, I reviewed the problems that I encountered as a young researcher, or what I need while doing science. So yes, I need to read lots of papers. I need open educational resources in the field of molecular biology, and also open lab protocols because I'm working in a lab. So the idea of designing a website where I can bring all this together came out. So I applied with my project idea, which is MBio. So basically my goal is to build an open educational resource on molecular biology, and to do this by designing a website. Here are my proposals to achieve this goal. Sometimes you may not be able to find free time to read papers, or you may prefer to get the main idea instead of a book of information. So I provide summary of scientific articles which I read to make it easy for you. And I'm sharing my lab protocols. As I told you, I'm working in a molecular biology lab, and I told with my supervisor, we decided to share our lab protocols in this website. Also, I am using many open resources during my work, and I share some website links and provide brief information here that can be used by those at the beginning of the way, like me. So I'm providing some useful links, especially for molecular biologists. And actually main purpose was to make this website open collaborative. So I add a section for commenting. So let's take a quick look at the website. So this is actually my website, and it's the kind of blog. I use GitHub, Git Pages, and developed it. So in the category section, we have these sections that correspond to what I explained in the previous slide, actually. So here you can find the summary of papers. We are interested in developmental biology as a lab, so it seems I will add papers which are mostly related with developmental biology at first. And we have lab protocols and some useful links to find free tools and resources. This website is an open platform for anyone who's willing to contribute. So you can comment, share ideas, and discuss. That's why we have discussion board. Here is the place for commenting about science, which make this website open collaborative. Additionally, you can just click and go to the post and read and comment. You might also get information about my project by clicking on project icon. Yes, as a main goal, this website should be based on collaborative approach. Make this website is an open collaborative, actually was provided by using utterances. It's an open source and it's using GitHub issues. When you write the comments under posts, it's directing you to GitHub and saving what you write in there. There are some other sources like Disqus, but you will have to pay at some point. So we explored other options and prefer to use utterances. So we have comment boxes under all posts, but especially discussion board, which is made for sharing new ideas, opening new questions, and talking about it and developing new collaborations among users. So if I actually sum up my OLS journey, there was a project idea in my mind before I started this journey. To be honest, as a young researcher at the beginning of the long way of science, I learned that what actually open science is and the right way of doing science. Here we had best examples in different fields. That's why it was a good opportunity for us to see what other folks are doing. I learned the steps and the rules of developing an open project or open your ongoing or finalized projects. In addition to all this, mentor-mentee meetings, so to have chance to meet with great experts, to attend cohort calls, and for sure to become a member of OLS community are great opportunities provided by OLS. So I would like to, this is actually what I want to present. I would like to thank to OLS team for awesome cohort calls and giving this opportunity to me. And also I would like to thank to my mentor, Mike. He is very mentioned and supported me from the beginning till the end. And many thanks our experts, Renato and Toby. We had super helpful meetings with them. So thank you all. Thank you for your attention. Yeah, this is actually a beginning project. As I mentioned, I will be very happy if you're interested in molecular biology or willing to collaborate with me to improve this website. Thank you for your attention.
Wonderful. Call for action is always a good way to end. Thank you so much, Nihan.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Let's give a round of applause. And we are reaching towards the end. Yo, would you like to share the last one?
Amazing. Okay, last but absolutely not least, Annalie, are you ready to talk about the Croatian American Social Memory Repository?
Hi, y'all. Yeah, I am. I'm going to be pulling it up right now. All right, sharing my screen. Oh, it says I have to open my system's preferences. Hold on.
No sweat, it'll be good.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to email you guys it right now. Let me try it again.
Good plan.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. Sharing, can y'all see it?
Looks good.
All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to your last talk of the day, coming to you live from the Midwest of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. My name is Annalie Sekulich. I'm currently not affiliated with any institution, but I am running the PPE distribution and COVID response as a service year for the state of Ohio. So it's been a kind of a wild year graduating from undergrad, but wanting to keep my foot in the door for graduate school applications whenever that may return to normal. Alas. So first, shout out to Kate Simpson. She's my mentor. She's been awesome. She lives on a boat in London. You should follow her blog if you really want to carry on with some really interesting ideas and lifestyles. It's super amazing. So let me get started. So my project was based on an idea I had to apply to grad school with back in 2020 about the Croatian American 1992 social memory repository. So we'll go forward. So the first question we should have is, I want to help future historians and scholars understand the past from the voices and the eyes of those who lived it. So today we're making history and people are living their lives. And we want to capture these journeys so that in the future, we can actually have everybody's stories be told equally and equitably. So I think open life science is the best way to make that possible, having everybody collaborate and to create an open science repository for all people around the world to submit their takes, their videos, their memories, their audio tapes, their lived experiences. We all have our phones. We all have the ability to get on, record it. But how can we connect it and how can we bring it together? The point of this is to be able to act as a skeleton for other communities around the world and around the globe to share, store, and sustain their own stories. So some big picture ideas I have is the ideas of diaspora, cultural identity, not being static. And when people leave, what happens to their social and heritage, their cultural memories. So if we can able to collect like this idea of a social memory, of a collective group of ideas, and be able to document it in a way that future generations can kind of look at it and take our own words and be able to analyze that in particular. So as an anthropologist, we must always find our very niche line, and mine is the involvement of the Croatian Americans in 1992, the Homeland War. It was Yugoslavia, the Iron Curtain was falling. We could go all into that. I'm Croatian, so we'll save that for another 5-minute talk. So I wanted to project this as there's already people doing this. That's the first thing, is you never really want to remake the wheel, but you want to look at what everybody's doing. So I want to do some shout outs to all of these different organizations, which let me bug them and poke their ear as I kind of pioneer through this open life science intersection with humanities oral history repository. And so shout out to Windrush. They are capturing stories. There's some shots about them. They explore race and migration. So instead of like looking at what I'm looking at with, which is more ethnicity and migration and cultural groups, they're looking more at the identity of the cultural groups in terms of race. And they have an online repository and teaching lessons based on it as well. Also, the University of Southern California, the Shohan Foundation also does that, but also for the Holocaust memories and the diaspora from World War II. So there's already people doing this. I'm just trying to make this to be a little bit more accessible, making sure that we can use it and making sure that we can have everybody tell their stories in a really easy and open way. So my expectations from OLS3 were I was kind of confused. My advisor said, hey, look at this. You should check this out. This will keep you kind of thinking, kind of engaging, and it will expand your knowledge. And that's exactly what it did. Learn, grow, and connect. And in the back of my head, I was like, whoa, I started learning about AI. I started learning about data feminism and all of this stuff, which made sense, started to come together. So my expectations were to learn, grow, and connect. And I think I hit all three of those. But I had to also set a project, and I had to set these pillars, which I had to make. So I had to really think through how to make these ideas reality. So the first idea was the development of a repository, somewhere where people can read, submit, and kind of get the idea of the project. Number two would be the having the testimonies be submitted, and after that, have them be able to be retrieved. The first part was the development of the repository. This is where I really got my feet on the ground and get going from it. And this is coming from GitHub. I'm an anthropologist and social science kid. We never touched GitHub with a 6-foot pole. And it's now the only thing I'm able to bring up with like these engineering guys at bars is GitHub, and we're able to talk about it now. But I've also gained a sort of command, control, and confidence over this new interface, and I've been able to see the potential for future projects. I've also, through this program, been able to implement the use of Google Forms and Google Drive, and as well as build interfaces using the GitHub skeletons for pages. So I'm able to actually now present my research, share the ideas in a more user-friendly way. Some of my key accomplishments and understandings were not only the web page, understanding the code of conducts, learning how to link web pages doing background coding. Never touched coding again with a 6-foot pole until this time. And I think these are really practical skills to have to get a project off the ground and rolling. Some issues I ran into is ethics. So how do you consent? How do you develop consent for people's stories and their memories, especially in a world where data is easily bought and sold? We are not a private institution. We don't have any checks and balances in that, but that's the point of being open. So there's these whole ideas and these conversations, and I had a lot of great discussions with people throughout the time, and it comes through really fleshed out code of conduct, really fleshed out privacy, and really fleshed out consent forms, and thinking through those and thinking about how your community personally takes those. In the interview guide as well, pre-war involvement, of current war involvement, and a post-war involvement, a really easy way to link the three. Here's a couple more looking kind of screenshots about more of the consent forms. Kind of people can immediately submit their videos to the Google Doc itself. So then it gets fed into this Google repository. So we're storing the documents. The only issue I still have right now is figuring out how to present the shared data, and that's kind of the next steps. Let's quickly step forward to our next step so that we don't run out of time. This is also reaching out with local communities to get their submittance and getting their testimonies as well wrapped in. So it's a really exciting time. We were wanting to engage more with looking through mass audio tapes to create a coding device so people can source it easier. So there's a bunch of these ideas which we're looking at, and there's a lot of things more to come. So I just want to wrap up with a huge thank you, guys. Thank you to everybody on this call. Thank you to everybody who sat through and is here, not just for the minds, the heart, and the community, but as an anthropologist to all you techies and bios out there. My favorite anthropologist once said, Margaret Mead, she says, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So with that, I say, I can't wait till the next cohort. I can't wait to keep thinking. Thank you, guys.
Wow, what a beautiful quote to end our last presentation on. Okay, thank you so much, Annalie. Thank you everyone who has stuck around for this mega long call. It has been such a beautiful journey, and I think I've nearly cried about 5 times through these beautiful presentations. There are probably 2 or 3 more to come in terms just of people who may have not been able to make any of these calls, but in essence, this is it. This is OLS 3 and we are done, and you have been beautiful, amazing people. We're going to get our certificates out to you. We're going to start advertising OLS 4, and don't say strangers, come talk in the Slack, be awesome. We love you. And I think with that, folks, we are out. Have a great day.
So amazing. We're going to go and cry a little bit. That was wonderful.
Okay. You're all free. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop that stream.